Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to embark on a journey like no other. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast,
your go-to destination for a unique blend of recovery and discovery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Mark. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to create a safe and uplifting space for our guests and listeners to share their stories with sincerity and a touch of humor.
Remember, we are not a Glum Lot. The Glum Lot Podcast is more than just a source of entertainment. It's a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, recovery is possible. Every story we share carries the power to inspire positive change.
So buckle up, get ready to listen, and join us in discovering the strength that lies within every individual's journey. This is the Glum Lot Podcast, where humor meets hope. We'd like to welcome you to episode number 35 of the Glum Lot Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Brett. And we want to remind our listeners to email us your thoughts or any suggestions you may have for guests to the Glum Lot Podcast.
Yeah, definitely that. That's something I was thinking about is, we've got a lot of people that have influential stories, but we usually got influenced by somebody. So if there is anybody out there, please, and you feel that they
anywhere
would be
in
willing,
the world, we can record with them.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we've expanded our capabilities.
So email us at the glumlotpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please join our Facebook group.
Yes.
And you'll get the news of when episodes first drop and everything else that's going on. And that is the Glum Lot Podcast Facebook group on Facebook.
Yeah, and let us know if you want to have some ideas on how we can make that community better as well.
Sure.
We want it to be a very good place, for all of us to collaborate and share. So, very exciting stuff.
Yes. With that, what is on your mind to talk about today?
Sometimes I struggle with the fact that, maybe my story isn't good enough, right, to be a good qualified alcoholic. And, or I can be guilty of the same thing. If somebody doesn't have the exact same story as mine, I can really start comparing and finding faults in stories, and is it really true, and all this crap. And I think the important thing is that we identify the commonalities.
Yes, and what is the only requirement for membership in AA?
That is the only requirement for AA is a desire to stop drinking.
Right, so if somebody has that as part of their story, that's their card to get in the door.
That's right. That's it.
Yeah, they're on the clipboard. The bouncer looks at them in his mirrored shades and opens the velvet rope.
And sometimes even in the meetings, we forget that stuff.
Yeah. Well, you hear, it runs the gamut from people that were jailed, people that were near death, to, people that, like me, I never got arrested. I never lost a job. I never lost a relationship. I just got to a super dark place, and I had an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And
there is what we identify, right?
Yeah, and so it may manifest itself in lives in different circumstances to varying degrees of, bottoms.
Yep.
And people, when I first came in, they you're kind of a high bottom drunk.
Yeah, same thing, right?
And I said, that's because I work out.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, my.
That being said, it is those variations that I think make AA really interesting. The story's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I can see a little bit of myself in any of those stories.
Absolutely. Because of that, those commonalities.
The commonalities.
The obsession of the mind, the physical allergy.
And what people find is that they have more in common with everyone in AA than they have differences.
That's right.
And the personalities are different as well, and we come from all different walks of life. AA has to pattern itself to fit in with the disease of alcoholism, and alcoholism knows no boundaries.
No.
Rich, poor, white, black, United States, Africa, Europe.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's a human race thing.
Yep.
It's a death thing. It's a disease. And so AA has to act accordingly. It's like know your audience. Well, our audience is everyone that's got this disease.
That's right. That's right.
So with that, Brett, we would like to welcome a guest who doesn't have a lot of time. And I always like these because you get a very fresh perspective with somebody that's got less than a year.
Absolutely. And this particular person, I was there when he first came in, and he has been nonstop. nonstop,
Yep.
all the way through. And I'm looking forward to him telling about that because he's been doing a really great job.
It's good. It's good when you see somebody that's committed from day one. You know, they really want this.
Yeah.
And they're enthusiastic, and that rubs off on us and makes us.
Of course it does.
Yeah, it makes us re-enthusiastic, I guess. So without further delay, let's welcome our next guest, Jason. All right, welcome, Jason. We are on episode number 35 of the Glum Lot podcast, and we're glad to have you here.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
And can we start with your sobriety date?
It would be November 6th of 2023.
Okay,
newbie.
so yeah, that's pretty recent, which is pretty awesome.
How many months is that?
It'd be 6 months Monday. It was 6 months.
He knows.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's go back to your first experience with a buzz.
That would have been when I was about 14 years old.
Okay, so you're 14, you're doing the typical teen thing. People get together and try drinking for the first time. You and your friends?
It was basically my sisters and them. They used to hold parties for the Army. My sister was in the Army. And then had all
your
the
older
buddies over,
sister.
so, yep.
Okay, so all these guys from the Army are there. They're all drinking beer?
Everything. Beer, liquor,
Okay.
you name it.
And you're 14?
Yep.
And they hand you a drink?
I basically snuck one.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
They didn't hand you shit. You handed yourself a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so did you just think, I'm going to be part of this, right?
Yep.
And so you have a couple, do you catch a buzz?
Just a tad bit.
Do you remember what it felt like, how you reacted to it?
Yeah. The reaction was not... It was not okay to me at first.
Okay, so you didn't fall in
made
love
you
with it
feel
immediately.
uneasy?
No, I felt uneasy.
Yeah.
Okay. But so I'm guessing things changed over time.
Yep. I haven't touched one until I was actually 21.
Really?
After that, yep.
Wow. Kudos
Only
to
had
you.
one.
So, smoking pot in that time too, or no?
Yeah.
A little
right
bit?
Up, right up
High
until
school?
about 19.
Okay. But still, your alcohol and drug use is kind of probably less than a lot of people around you, right?
Well, yeah, 14 to 21.
My sisters was doing it all the time. Of course, my mother, she was always getting high.
Okay. So you're around it.
I'm around it.
Yeah, but you're not really in. You're not really.
No.
You're not really jumping in. What changed when you got a little bit older?
19 years old, I was having my firstborn.
Oh, okay. So
And
you had a child.
Yeah, and that changed me from ever touching, weed again, pot, and
So you put the weed down.
yep.
At what point do you pick up a drink again?
21 after I got divorced and started joining my first band.
Okay, so
I
you're
was gonna
a
ask.
drummer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And as many of you know, I'm in a band, and Jason's in a band, different band. But we're two sober musicians out there in the world of bars.
So even in high school, you were obviously into music and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, I started playing drums when I was 4 years old.
Wow, cool. But, I know when I was in high school and we were on the bus and going back to field band things and stuff, man, there was kids that were doing that stuff. And you didn't get into it, huh?
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Interesting.
All right, so you're 21, you're divorced,
Yep.
and you start drinking again.
Yep. It was the very first show with the very first band I had. It was a group of guys I'd known for a long while. And basically what happened is they told me in order to be in this band, you got to drink a little bit. And, when I started out that night, what was supposed to be very less ended up blacking out.
Ooh.
So this band is a party
Hopefully
band.
after the
Yes.
show.
That's part of the...
Yeah, I was...
He doesn't remember the second set.
Yeah,
the
right.
second set's a blur.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that one of our guests, Dave S., who's in my band, he left his previous band because there was so much smoke and dope and drinking going on that he could not survive in that element clean. So he had to it was a people, places, and things type deal. He had to get away from it. And I know in that world, and we had another guest on, Bill H., who was in bands that got heavily involved in cocaine. And that was just the culture of that, scene. And I know it is with rock bands that, partying hard is part of the deal. And a lot of them like to do it on stage, and they like to drink as much as the audience, and they feel like that kind of bonds them with the audience. And so you fell into that.
I fell into that, and for quite a while, I was doing it for quite a while until about 2006 when the band broke up. I ended up for probably 5 years not touching a drink after that.
Wow. Really?
Jeez.
I was with somebody, and they didn't condone to it, but they were, later on I find out they were more like, how do I say it, more basically wanted you to do everything, if you know what I mean. They were kind of this and this, I'm not allowed to do this, I'm allowed to do that.
So very controlling.
Controlling.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I see.
So they wanted to micromanage you.
Yeah, basically.
Boy,
yeah.
that's tough.
And what helped with not doing is because basically my thing was just to go to work and come home. And that was it. I couldn't do anything else.
Sounds like we had an experience with a narcissist.
So, so you join the band, you drink your face off, you quit the band, you stop drinking.
For about 5 years, yep.
And then
you were told so.
So what makes you pick it up after 5 years? You get out of the relationship, I'm assuming.
About the last year of that relationship, it ended up I was always picking fights to get thrown away, like to my buddy's house to do some snowmobiling or something like that.
Oh, so you picked a fight to get kicked out. So
that's it, I'm leaving.
Basically fighting for your freedom at this point.
Basically. I ended up having credit, got a car, ended up getting that. She was, she was royally pissed when she found out I did that.
Wow.
All right, but eventually do you leave this controlling relationship?
I do, yep.
Okay.
And
that in itself is kind of healthy.
Did you kill her?
Well, the way that happened was I ended up behind her back joining a different band, and I was practicing, here and there. And then one day I was walking out, and she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I got a show to do." And she goes, "I told you were not to ever play again. It's either me or the band." And I walked out and never been back.
So it's rock and roll, baby.
And let me tell you, though, that's hard to do. That probably was not an easy decision. You probably had that run through your head a bunch of times prior to that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But, it worked out for the better. I mean,
yeah, you got to drink again.
That night, I picked up a beer.
See?
Yep.
Did you?
Yeah,
Yep.
see?
Jesus
Of course.
Christ. It's a miracle you're in a band and not drinking then, So you join this other band, you're out of the relationship, you start drinking again, and are you one of these guys where it's 0 to 100? So if you're going to drink, you're going to drink.
No, for a long while I was pretty good,
Couple beers a night?
Couple beers a night to catch just a little buzz, and not smoking the pot, and people get buzzed on the pot, I get buzzed on the beer.
So what changed over time?
Basically, it just started getting more and more out of hand each time I picked up a drink.
Progressive disease
is progressing.
Making its progression, right?
Yep.
And is this imperceptible to you at the time? Do you not even realize it?
No, I didn't really realize it at the time, no.
And then it got to a point at which, so something had to happen, right?
For a while it was okay, and in 2016 my dad passed away of cancer. Mm-hmm. And it ended up, that was that night for at least 3 to 4 weeks I disappeared, and I was just drinking.
You had some heavy shit to deal with.
Heavy.
And you used alcohol to deal with it, yeah. And you come out of this binge, and do you have a realization that this is not good for me, or is it still manageable in your mind?
When I came back after my dad passed away for about a month, my buddy was here before he left state again, and he basically knocked me out in the driveway, and they put me in the hospital because I was basically alcohol poisoning.
Really? Yeah. Okay, so what do they tell you in the hospital?
Then I needed to quit. Okay. I still didn't quit when I walked out of there.
Yeah, okay, sure. No problem. You walk out.
Yeah.
Pop a drink.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so your drinking still kept going.
It kept going, but it got back to being a little light.
So you're one of these guys that's heavy, light, heavy, light. Boy,
Going
that's
back and
tough.
forth.
See, with me, my progression was just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It was kind of easier to see. But for a lot of people that are in and out like that, it's tough to get a fucking handle on what's going on with you.
So every time you did go a little heavier, was it because something came up?
Yeah, most of the time, yep.
So it was to cope. That was your medicine?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we do tend to drink for effect.
Yeah.
Because it is our medicine. Because, we don't even know it sometimes. Mm-hmm. But a drink makes us feel better. That's all we want to do is feel better, right?
Yep.
But so things did get worse, right?
It did. For a while, it was all right, And then I got into a relationship with a girl back in 2017, which, boy, I found out she was a closet drinker. 1 liter of vodka a day.
Yeah.
And but when you first met her, you didn't realize that, right?
No.
How did you figure that out?
Well, let's just say we were out. I watched her only drink a couple beers.
Yeah.
But next thing you know, in an hour, she's falling all over herself.
Two beers doesn't equate to...
You're like, either she's a
It
lightweight.
doesn't equate to it. It doesn't equate to it. Well,
No, either she's a lightweight or something else is going on.
now, I must remind you, the guy I was in the band with, the first rock band, my singer, Billy, he was the singer of the band I'm in now. But he no longer sings with us. But anyway, he kind of said, wouldn't it be funny if she was a closet drinker? Well, shit.
That's
Did
what
that
happened.
joke turn out to be real?
Yeah.
No
Because
kidding.
She was falling all over herself after 2 beers, and I went looking, and I found it.
So did you confront her?
I did confront her.
What was the result of that?
She was not very happy that I confronted her.
So
Yeah.
was this another... I'm just asking if there's a trend. Is this another kind of abusive relationship?
no,
Meaning
no.
controlling and stuff like that?
Not so much controlling, but man, when she drank, whew,
So brutal.
boy, brutal. She could be.
I
She was
gotcha.
mean, very, very mean.
Mm-hmm.
And,
So what did you do? Did you say, look, either you got to stop or this ain't going to work?
Well, from back when, from what I gather, she went to rehab the first time.
Okay.
That was before I met her, and she came out.
And so you didn't know that until
They told me that after the fact. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
really? So then I sent her back to rehab. I got her to go back to rehab. She came back for a month, and I told her if she went back into it, it was over. Well, I was at work, and she had my brother and a bunch of his friends bring it to her, so I found out about that real quick.
so that relationship ended?
Yeah, it ended.
Uh-huh. And what does this do to your drinking?
To me, I was still the same. I was still light.
See,
But what
I
I-
had
but-
a similar experience in that in my first marriage, my wife didn't drink that much. But when she drank, it was like, look out, because it was going to be
Jekyll and
fucked
Hyde.
up. Yeah, it was going to be mean. So I was a maintenance drinker. I drank every day anyway. But if I saw her start to drink, I backed right off. I stopped drinking because I knew I was going to have to babysit and take care of business and bring her home blacked out. And it didn't happen a lot, but it's funny that as an alcoholic, I'm like, all right, I got to stop drinking because I got to be the fucking person here who's going to take care of business.
When I was with her, I was drinking a whole hell of a lot just to deal with her,
Oh,
basically.
yeah.
So after I got rid of her, I was like, okay, I could back it up now. I could back up something.
Yeah. So again, you're like, drink a lot, don't
It
drink
was a
so
tough
much.
situation. Yep.
And so what brought you into your final big blowout alcoholic type experience?
I have no idea. I'm thinking it was just along the line of playing with the band all the time, and I just like to party, just having a great time. And the girl I was M with, she's in AA, and she was dealing with it.
Would that be Tammy from the previous episode?
It would be.
Oh, so you've got a good person who's sober in your life.
Yep.
Now, when you're with this band, and every time you guys play out, you crack open some beers.
Yep.
Did you ever say to yourself, tonight I'm not going to do that? Did that
No.
ever occur to you?
No way.
Did it ever end like really messy the night? Did you ever have or were you like a kind of a guy who would catch a buzz and maintain?
Sometimes I'd maintain. There's other times where it got a little worse because I was drinking the high test stuff, like IPAs, or I was taking shots.
And were you the kind of a person that gets out of hand when you get fucked up?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Were there any
A lot of drum
repercussions?
solos.
A lot of drum solos with really bad timing.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, did you ever get pulled over? Any of that kind of legal ramification stuff?
I got pulled over one time after a band practice, and that was with the girl I was with in 17. Her apartment was only like around the corner.
Of course.
And,
That's all it takes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for some odd reason, the cop, and I knew 6 beers in an hour, there's something, hello.
You're not going to pass the test.
Yeah. Well, I passed a sobriety test where he made me walk the line and all that just fine. He gave me a blow test, looked at me, looked at that thing, looked at me, looked at that thing, and said, okay, where's the apartment? Right there. He said, I just get there.
Oh, well, you're
Wow.
lucky.
So
Yeah,
he just
that's
kind of
good.
let me go.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that was the first run-in with it, so I never...
So I'm curious, I'm hearing about the band and all that stuff. How was your self-confidence before and after a drink?
Before, I was using it to loosen up. I had to loosen up. And that was basically what I was using it for, was to loosen up. So
I see.
At home, I would drink a couple before I went, and then have maybe 3 or 4, maybe 6 that night, depending on how fast I can get them down as I'm playing.
Yeah, I got you.
And so did you eventually start drinking when you weren't playing out?
I was still drinking a couple here and there at home.
Uh-huh.
And Tammy used to say, back when I was an alcoholic, I used to finish it or put it in the fridge. If I didn't finish it, she'd watch me pour more down the sink.
Oh, that pisses us off.
I'm like frozen right now.
I know. I want to punch you right in the face for saying that. No, I used to bartend, and when people would order a drink and drink like a quarter of it and get up and leave, I'm like, what the fuck?
Mark became the drain.
I'm like, get back here and finish this. What are you doing?
Well, the thing is for a while, my biggest thing was when people say, you want a beer? I'm like, sure, I'll give you a beer. 24 can. So I was always buying the 24 ounces.
Yeah.
Drinking maybe 3 or 4 of them a night.
Yeah.
And so at what point does this become a problem, your drinking?
It started becoming a problem probably about 2 months before November.
Okay.
Okay, so before that, you're drinking heavy, then not drinking heavy, then drinking heavy, then not drinking heavy.
Situational drinking.
Right, but it gets to this point 2 months before November. Tell us about that, your experience with it.
Did anything
Basically,
happen?
us guys at work, we were able to drink at our yard, and when we got back, we clocked out, and we'd have beers. So it basically, we would sit there and go through 2 12 racks between 5 of us before it was over. And it was gotten to be almost a constant everyday thing for us.
Yeah.
So then it just started getting worse and worse and worse. And when I got home, I was still drinking more and more and more. So my 2-3 ended up being a 12-pack every other day.
And you're living with somebody who is in active sobriety,
Yikes.
going to AA, and they're watching this and probably saying to you, normal people don't do this, right?
She was giving me hints and warnings.
Yeah, okay.
I just didn't want to listen. The drunk side of me was always, what do you know?
And so what happened?
She ended up throwing me out.
Yeah, so she
Nice.
doesn't want this in her life, right? And,
Protect her own. Yep.
Yeah. And so this troubles you greatly. You're very unhappy.
Yep.
And you're realizing that your drinking is
A problem.
right. And so what do you do?
Well, I go to a show of one of my friends, and because she knew some people in AA who have actually watched my band, so I kind of already knew some people. And I went to him, and he got me into my first meeting November 6th.
Oh.
Tell us about your first meeting.
It was a Monday night.
Okay.
It was the men's meeting out here, in central New York. And when I first walked in there, I was a mess.
Oh, yeah.
Met Chuck, and Chucky handed me a blue book, told me it would be all right, told me to read the doctor's opinion, so I read that night. But as it went on that day, Chuck said, well, you didn't come here for drinking a lot of cherry Cokes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I always suggest new people read that doctor's opinion because one of the first steps to being okay with coming to AA is realizing you have a disease and that you're not a bad person, you're not stupid, you're not necessarily weak, you're an alcoholic, and to understand that we have a disease that's not going to go away but is treatable if we take the right steps. Is a huge burden off of us. And from there, I think it's a jumping off point.
The understanding of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you went to the doctor and he said you have diabetes, you have to take insulin, would you go, fuck that, I don't have diabetes. I'm in denial.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't happen. But it is the disease that tells you don't have a disease, which makes it very difficult for people.
See, I didn't even think I had it, and I didn't think I was an alcoholic because, I had spurts where I was going light, heavy, light, heavy. So I figured,
and that's not atypical.
I was going to try to control it myself, which it ended up in the end. Nope, far from it.
Yeah.
Other than being thrown out, one of the other things that kept me here is when I first went in the first 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks, 2 weeks later, my brother, who was a big-time alcoholic, he sat around for years and years and years and did nothing but drink all day. 8 o'clock in the morning, and he passed away from it.
2
no
weeks
shit.
in.
2 weeks in.
Yeah,
I
so
remember
2 weeks
this.
in, your brother dies from alcohol-related problems.
Yep.
And how old is he?
He was 40.
Okay, so he's a young guy.
He was a heavy drinker with diabetes who took insulin. So, yeah, it kind of didn't mix.
So, yeah, that's another wake-up call. The same thing happened to me with my father. I'm sober, I think 2 years maybe, when he goes in for his liver transplant. And after that, it was all pretty downhill pretty quick for him, and he died from booze. And I drank just like he did, except more. He was a maintenance drinker, I was a maintenance drinker. So, yeah, I mean, it is difficult to wrap your head around when you think, well, I drink heavy sometimes, I drink, but I don't really see it as a problem. And then until somebody says, it's a problem.
And then you have somebody you're close to pass from it. That had to be a motivator.
Right, and also you have to become accountable. And, when you're with somebody that's in the program, you've got to be pretty accountable. And so you start going to meetings. Do you get a sponsor?
3 days in, yes, I did.
Wow.
And
Okay.
my sponsor was actually on this show a while back,
Oh, who's your sponsor?
Mark D.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so our episode 2.
I just texted Marky D today, and he's a
Yeah.
good man, yeah. So you start going through the book a little bit?
I was actually on my own listening to it in the truck on the
Okay.
audio.
When I came in, there was no internet.
Yeah.
There was no... people today have so many resources.
Yeah.
And I know, people say, I don't have time to read the big book. Yeah, listen to it.
Bullshit.
Listen to it for free.
Yeah.
Same thing with the 12 and 12. It's all out there and it's all available. It's never been easier. And then, of course, the Glum Lot podcast. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here thinking about that, and I really push this app, and I'm going to plug it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so on the App Store or Google Play, look up Everything AA. That thing's helped save my life, in those times that I didn't have that person right next to me in front of me. It's got your daily reflections. It has the major publications in written where you can read it. It has it in audio where you can listen to it. It's got all of the AA literature on it. It's
got all the
prayers.
I am really a huge fan of the morning prayer.
Yeah.
I've been around. I've been in AA I've been sober for 34 years. I've been around for 35 years. Never heard it until Brett said, you got to get this app. And I go in the app and I read that prayer. I'm like, holy shit, this is a great way to start a day. And I read it every morning when I read it. I'm like, I want, if I do this,
You're
I'm
good.
going to be in good shape.
I think a lot of the thing about that app is I like it a lot is Joe and Charlie. They got them.
Oh, the Joe and
they got
Charlie
them on
things
there.
are huge.
Yep.
Going through the book.
So you're, 7 months in, you say?
6.
6 months in. Is the drink still talking to you at all?
No, not at all.
Good. So the obsession left you pretty quickly?
It did. Yep.
And now you're working on yourself?
Yep.
And have you started working the steps?
I have. I'm up 6 and 7 now, I believe.
So you did your 4th and 5th.
Did my 4th
Yeah.
and 5th.
Boy, 6 and 7, there's some work, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it is for me. It still is. And
How was your 4th?
My 4th took me at least a month and a half.
Okay. Anything brought up that, was a surprise or something you didn't realize was coming into play in your life?
Other than the fact of I wanted to do what I wanted to do. That was it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just curious.
just self-will. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, I wrote all these things down, all these character defects and resentments and all this shit. And I sat down with my sponsor to do 5, and you get to the exact nature of those defects. And we're going through them, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, what do we fear.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, dude, I got to be honest with you. I don't really think I'm afraid of anything. And he's like, really? Are you afraid of being wrong in front of people?
Oh, my God.
Well, yeah. Are you afraid maybe somebody doesn't like you? Well, if I have to be honest, yes. And we went through all these things because those are all fears, That's all lack of faith. That's you not letting go, And they say that lack of control is our dilemma, And so I had to learn to temper the ego and to be okay with not being in control. And if you really look at it, what that is to me is accepting the reality that I'm not in control no matter what I think. You know, if I think I'm in control, it doesn't matter. It's bullshit. I'm just not. So why not get used to reality and start living it? You know, and that's kind of what the path I'm on.
Fifth was a good experience for you?
What was that?
Fifth was a good experience with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
Good.
How are you digging 6 and 7? You getting some?
I'm into book studies with that right now. Yep.
Good.
Yep. Very good.
Do one Thursday. Thursdays I usually set up the meetings.
Let's get into service work. So
he took that on early.
Yeah, you jumped right into service work. You were told to, right? Somebody's behind you nodding their head furiously.
No. I'm actually thinking he actually put himself up for that. One night he did say, because I used to do it, all right?
Okay.
So I used to be the guy, the coffee maker. I did it for 2 years, and he said, can I help? Oh, music to my ears, right? And I also knew he was new. And I was like, my God, how often does this happen? And so the miracle was already starting. And he just jumped on it, and I was like, here's your new thing. And he's been nonstop since with it.
Right, and what people don't understand is that is an opportunity, and that Jason took on.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity because it does commit you to showing up, and in that time you do talk to people outside of the framework of a formal meeting, and you make bonds with people, and you hear the truth, and you see how alcoholics work with each other. And that's kind of the miracle of the program, is one alcoholic to another. And it's all good stuff, but when you're on the outside, you go, ugh, I got to show up and make coffee? God damn it, But it pays off so well.
It does pay off. I mean, every once in a while, it's like, oh, man, work. And then go and do more work. But it pays off in the end.
So you're 7 months sober, and you're still with a band that's actively playing gigs. What's that like now?
Great. Actually, my playing is, from what I gather, has improved a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a lot better.
What about the other guys in the band?
The other guys in the band, they love it, actually.
Yeah.
My one guitar player doesn't drink at all.
Oh.
My singer, well, only when he's out and about, but he mostly drinks water the whole night.
Yeah.
And my new guitar player, actually, he may have one, maybe when it gets going, and one at the end.
Yeah. So you're in a band that's not sober, but it's not a big deal.
And they're accepting of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge because in a lot of bands it's not that way.
Well, it's such a big thing of the image.
Right. And it's really hard when you're in a band with 4 or 5 guys to be an outsider, to be the only guy that doesn't drink to excess or go out after or, attend these heavy drinking party things. It's tough. And that's why, the band that I'm in is a good fit because none of us drink. Our drummer is not in recovery, but he does have a recovery history from drugs and alcohol. And you know what else is nice, too, is bands are, for those of you who have never been in a band, it is like a fucking constant battle of egos and personalities. It really is. To the point of being childish.
Yeah.
And everybody gets butthurt, and because it's working creatively and collaboratively with other people is very difficult.
And it's very dependent on ideas.
And personalities,
yeah.
And so using the principles of AA, we learned that we have to quickly forgive each other. We have to quickly back off, give up control. And, I've really come face to face with that through the band. To the point where I they'll say, what do you want to put in the set list? And I'll be like, honestly, I like everything we play. Whatever you guys want to do is fine with me. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I don't want to fight for anything. I just want to enjoy the experience, and I do.
It's always fun to mix it up.
It is.
I mean, what's really fun to me is that you can take 2 bands and members that are in the groups, 2 different bands that play the same almost type of music. Some songs are, a lot of them are the same, and you can intermix them. You can bring somebody in to fill in, somebody not to fill in.
Right, it is very collaborative, you know? Yeah, and I know that Jason's lead singer came up and sang a song with us the last time we played out.
Yeah,
and we do play,
awesome.
I think we play 8 or the 10 same songs, probably, right?
Yeah.
We play the same type of music.
About 15 different songs, I think, are the same, yeah.
Okay.
And then, we had Mike come up and sing with us from your band. So,
yeah. But it is, and we had a guest on who was talking about the national band community of bands like the Dead with the Wharf Rats and Fish. I forgot what they call their people. Billy Strings.
The Yellow Balloons.
Yeah, Billy Strings has a crew of sober people. That these bands, especially these jam bands and party bands, there is a following that is sober. There's a sober community within that really take care of each other. And they have meetings during the breaks. I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
You know? We haven't done that yet with our band, but I know Stevie Ray Vaughan, before he died in the helicopter crash, he used to have meetings before his shows. You know, him and a lot of guys in his band and his crew was AA guys. And, they made that part of the experience. And if you look, over the history of all these rock bands like Aerosmith and, they've all gone through this shit, and they got sober. And these are the bands that Aerosmith was huge. Then they kind of broke apart and everybody got shitty and they had their addictions and issues with each other. Yeah. Then they all got sober. They all gelled again. And they had a huge successful second half, And
then they dropped a country album.
And then, I got to tell you, who hasn't dropped a country album?
Yeah, right?
You know what I mean? I was in a country band for a while. That was the band I started back up in 2011 with. It was a country band.
So early sobriety's been good to you?
So far, yeah. Very.
So far?
Yep.
Okay.
Very
and he, I got to sit here because I've watched it, in a lot of cases, and he's really jumped in. You mentioned on Thursday nights we're reading the Big Book, and he's been there every time. And I know also that he's been looking to things on his own, right? How often do you experience that? And, because as I'm talking, he's like fact-checking me once in a while, It's just
nice. Got to keep Brett
good
sharp.
Alcoholic, right?
Got to keep Brett sharp.
But, I know that wasn't something you guys did right off the bat. So what's been your experience so far going through that?
It's been great. I mean, I'm meeting a lot of cool people, a lot of good people. A lot of them, if I need a question, they put me on the right path.
Have you been able to relate to some of the stuff in there as far as the stories and...
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I like listening to everybody's stories.
Yep.
I mean, we all have the same addiction, same disease. Sometimes the stories are the same, and then other times they're different.
Yeah.
It just depends on how well we react to it. And
you know something? Even the stories that are completely different than mine, I see a kernel of myself in all of them. Even when people talk about, I had the gun in my mouth, I was going to pull the trigger. I've never done that, and I've never had suicidal ideation, but I can see how I could get there.
I sure did feel worthless.
Yeah. And you're like, you know what? That's not there, but for the grace of God go I. Is the saying, and it's true. In any of those cases, I can see myself getting there eventually if I, go back out. And that's a big fear of everybody who's got long-term sobriety is like, you got to realize I'm one drink away from never coming back. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people say, I got one more drunk in me, but I don't have another recovery. And that's scary,
So what is it that's keeping you doing this?
There's a lot of, the major things, like my brother passing away, a fear of getting thrown out again. I don't want that to ever happen again,
Yeah, you value
Especially
your relationship. And
so good now, better than what it was.
And they say that anything you put before your sobriety, you'll lose, too, So... I'm guessing that a large part of your sobriety is just about yourself and the way you feel about yourself and, the changes that are occurring in your life that are making it better. And they say beyond your wildest dreams. And I know for me, I didn't really know what that meant. And eventually I came to the understanding that living an honest life with a good plan for success and relationships with people that are real, that's the life beyond my wildest dreams. Not an island in the Caribbean and a sports car and all that bullshit. All those temporary things, although they would be nice. It's really living an authentic life and being rooted in reality that is my life beyond my wildest dreams. And I know I can lose it. I really do, I mean, I'm kind of always on the verge of losing it, really, from my thinking, from my alcoholic thinking. And that's what keeps me coming back, and keeps me learning and putting forth effort.
Honestly, when I first started getting sober, I thought the band was going to be a big issue. That was one of my fears, and it turns out it's really not.
Yeah, so you're saying, Jesus, can I really be in a band and be sober?
Right.
Can I do this?
Yep.
Is the band going to allow it? You
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And those people, places, and things can tank us. That was one of my big things with people, places, and things. I went out 6 times in my first 6 months, and it was always people, places, and things. And no matter how much my sponsor and people in the rooms told me that, I had to go through pain experiencing that to really learn it.
Right.
Because I'm not going to listen to what people say. I got to go through it. But, yeah, I'm really glad that the whole band thing has worked out for you, in sobriety. And, playing shows sober is, to me is like finally it's all about the music. It's not about getting fucked up and playing music. It's about the music.
Now I put my head into the music, and basically that's helps me forget.
Yeah.
Helps me forget about the alcohol, So that's just it with my life right now. I'm enjoying my best time I can enjoy now.
And tell us about your experience with One Day at a Time.
One day at a time. Well, I got to take everything one day at a time, because if I don't, then I know I'll be right back at it.
Yeah, and it has to do with expectations and long-term unlivable situations and,
not living in those thoughts that never come true,
You don't know what's going to happen. You can't predict the future, so you don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. So, you just got to look at one day at a time.
How did you come to be comfortable with steps 2 and 3, with the spiritual part of the program?
That, growing up when I was a kid, I was always shipped off to Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
I was born and raised in the state of Texas, and I was always shipped off from 5 years old to 10 years old for church. On
Was that like a Southern Baptist?
Yeah, Christian.
Okay, yeah.
Christian, yep.
And so when you came into the program and there's the spiritual component, was that easy for you?
Yes, because I already, believed in a higher power. God knows He's got me through a lot of things, snowmobile accidents, car accidents. If it wasn't for Him, there's been times I should have been dead on a snowmobile twice.
And so you had that coming in.
I had that coming in.
Yeah, that's kind of an advantage because a lot of people come in and, boy, they'll fight that part of it.
As I like to say it, I didn't talk to him for a very long time after 2016 when my dad died. I just kind of was pissed. I was mad.
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk to him. Why'd you take my dad so early?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, and so, getting that component of the steps down, it chokes a lot of people out in 2 and 3. And they do the 3-step, 1, 2, 3 out, 1, 2, 3 out. 1, 2, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's a huge advantage coming in if you already have that kind of mindset, coming in. And have you worked with anybody else? Have you helped other people? Have you had the opportunity to help other people or talk to other people about sobriety?
I have not got to talk to other people about it yet.
Oh, you will. Especially in the circles that you travel. The whole music thing and, being around that element. Boy, there's a lot of people that can use it.
Yeah, and people newer to the program think they don't have anything to offer, and that's so far from the truth.
It is.
I think sometimes when we're talking in meetings, they're getting all the perfect stuff, all the good sobriety stuff. But I think it's even more valuable when they know that there's somebody not quite far away from them that's experiencing these things. So, I encourage you to start doing that because, that can be pretty powerful as well as somebody that they can relate to closely instead of somebody that's got 30 to 40 years,
I know one time I did help somebody. I got a text right out of the blue, hey, can you get me to a meeting? I was like, oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
He was
Somebody
only
reached
right
out
up
and
the
you were
road.
there, right?
I was there, and I took him and I brought him back.
Somebody was attracted to you because of that, right? So you had something that they wanted, right? And whether that's a vehicle or whatever, they thought of you.
Yeah, I know for myself, I love hearing newcomers share at meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of times there's something really, really raw about it that it touches you. You know what I mean? Sometimes hearing people recite the big book and the sayings and all that, it's great. But there's something like about a gut-wrenching story about someone who's new that just really resonates with me. And I just love that stuff. So we'd like to thank you for coming on the Glum Lot podcast.
Hey, thank you.
And continued success to you. And until next time, I'm Mark.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Jason.
As we wrap up another episode of the Glum Lot podcast, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Navigating the path to recovery from alcohol and other substances is a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and self-discovery. Remember, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're here to provide a safe space for open conversations about the complexities of recovery. Your stories, courage, and resilience inspire us and our listeners alike. If you or someone you know is on the transformative journey, know that you're not alone. Join us next time as we continue to explore the diverse facets of recovery. Until then, stay strong, stay connected, and remember that each day is a step towards a brighter, sober tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the Glum Lot community.